product placement's this idea that I, as a brand or as a sponsor, can insert my product into a television show or into a movie, pay a fee for the privilege, and hope that it pays off with the audience in some way.
It's placing the product inside content, like a film or a television program, in a way that feels logical and at the same time does justice to the product. So, I mean, it's showcasing the product in a cool way, I guess.
The subtle placement of product within the environment, such as gaming or television programming or movies. So when you see a vending machine, it's the Coke vending machine. When you pan across the bar, there's wild turkey and Coopers and whatever, all those sort of things. So it's in the appropriate situation, placed within an environment.
I mean, Mitsubishi has done product placement, and we've talked about it for one or two of our other clients. The issues are that mostly the responsibility rests with the media agency, but the lead times are long, and it's risky because, you know, there's no guarantee. You can't kind of control how the product is going to be seen, and so, you know, it's a risk, and you know, and for all of those reasons, it kind of ends up in the too hard follow-up.
We haven't recommended it. We've actually recommended against it a couple of times because we didn't think the brand fit was appropriate, but that fell on deaf ears. But a lot of our clients, particularly people like Coopers, they get approached all the time, and you know, particularly if there's an Australian movie trying to get up, and you know, we had one instance with Australia, the movie, and Coopers got on board as a sponsor. I think as Jacobs Cricket as well. I mean, you know, quintessential Australian brands. Unfortunately, with Nicole's husband's run-in with the booze, there was nothing we could do collaboratively to sort of, you know, leverage that association, because she didn't want to go anywhere near it, understandably, and Hugh Jackman backed her up, so it was kind of a placement that didn't really have any effectiveness. You happened to see it if you were lucky in a bar somewhere, but it was sort of so background, it was never, you know, it wasn't front and centre.
If you can blend your product message inside the content in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're being got at as the audience, then I think that's terrific, because I mean, it's, you know, it's not asking for your time outside of the thing that you're interested in.
Reality TV shows do a really good job of it, and they can be overt with their product integration, and that's because products are in those reality places in life anyway. There are going to be products in those shows, and so they might as well be paid for. So I think that can be a really good example.
Yeah. It's certainly a growing trend. I mean, effectiveness, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to measure at this point in time. I mean, you know, what do you get, so many seconds of exposure, and therefore that's rated at, you know, I mean, it's pretty hard to define what is effective product placement. But I think when you, for me, I reckon consistent exposure is really important. When you talk about the likes of Coca-Cola, they're there all the time across, I don't know what their budget is for that sort of thing, but they're there across a raft of activities all the time. I mean, if you're just going to go in, toe in the water and just do one or two things every now and then, you're almost wasting your time.
For me, it's more about consistent recognition of our brand so that they remember it.
You've got to figure out, I suppose, how you support around that. So if that's one exposure, I mean, you know, where else does the story go, I guess. But yeah, I think it's legitimate. And look, in this day and age, we're all challenged every day to figure out how we can do it in a way that's, you know, that people aren't just turning off to in an instant because they know that it's just another ad.
If someone asked me, is this something I would suggest to a client, I'd give the generic diplomatic advertising answer, and that is, it depends on the client, and it depends on the strategy, it depends if it's right for them. And so I wouldn't go giving blanket answers like, I think a client should use this. I'd be thinking about whether it might be right for them or not.
My background as a designer, getting a brand, a company's brand, doesn't matter how you get it in somebody's face. That's what it's all about.
The public's smart. They know product placement exists. They're not idiots. So if you have something rammed down your throat, it's going to affect the quality of the movie or the game that you're going to be engaging with. So it's going to have a negative effect on the brand and the product itself. So you've got to be smart about how you do it, because I mean, people aren't idiots. They know what's going on.
Consumers resent product placement when it's uncomfortable. It's often not uncomfortable in reality shows because it's a part of that everyday life. But if you're watching a legal drama and suddenly someone pulls out their telephone that's clearly not the sort of telephone people would ordinarily use, and they hang on that logo and they do that crash zoom in on the car badge as it drives in, and it feels really uncomfortable. It feels like it shouldn't have been in the show. That's when people can really resent it.
But in this day and age, people are so literate, they're so marketing literate that they know that if the people in MasterChef are using a product, they know that's been paid for. Now, that doesn't necessarily have stopped it being successful for Coles, and who could have predicted what a fantastic success MasterChef was going to be, I guess. But I think the problem is that too much of it is obvious and it becomes a bit cringeworthy.
I think product placement is a really important thing to get right. You're going to be really subtle about it. I think a lot of brands get it really wrong when they're completely over the top, that they really have it in your face. So I think it's the subtlety, the nuances of product placement is the most important thing.
You know that they're paying for it to be there, rather than for you seeing it in a way that makes you feel it's cool.
Oh look, we've got a lot of things we can talk about. The advertiser, the business journal's just gone weekly. It's a magazine that's out every Tuesday in the advertiser. Reaches over 430,000 people a week. I mean, when Steve McQueen wore kind of Purcell sunglasses, it was cool. And when James Bond drove a Aston Martin in Goldfinger, you get that. But when Tom Cruise wore the Ray-Bans in Top Gun.
I feel the need for speed.
There's the classic sort of ones that we all know about. But I reckon there's a lot that have gone by the wayside that you just go, look, there's nothing there that's going to change my life or change the way I feel about that product.
We've got our new My Week section for young mums on Mondays, targeting the busy homemaker for personal tips on household budgets and the like.
Probably the most effective one, without a doubt, wasn't for a product or a brand, it's for a category, and that was basically through Hollywood and European film studios when the classic scene of the guy with a blindfold on about to be shot in the firing squad, and his dying wish is to have a cigarette. Now it was the tobacco companies that actually created that. It wasn't actually, I don't think anybody, I can think of a lot of things I want to do just before I die, and having a smoke isn't one of them, that's an amazing bit of product placement that sort of changed a generation and more generations towards smoking.
The new trader section on the Fridays, another product that competes with the eBays of the world, where you can list your 3 lines for free. So lots of different opportunities to place products where appropriate.
Consumers hang out for ad breaks. They love ad breaks because they can switch the telly off, they can hit the mute button, they can go make some toast. And marketers have known, advertising people have known for years that people do everything they can to skip ad breaks. And now with things like TiVo and people are downloading their TV shows and people are recording them and fast forwarding through, it's really, really easy to avoid watching the ad breaks. And so product placement's used for that reason. So we can't avoid it, so we can't skip it.
We do everything from pens through to clothing, to the useless stubby holders, to the mouse mats, USB flash drives, bags, caps, anything with a logo on it, we do it.
BBDO, of course, comes up in Mad Men. They talk about, when you watch Mad Men, they talk about, in the agency, they talk about what BBDO's doing, and it's very cool. It is, you kind of see the brand in that context, and you go, oh, that's kind of good. It's
all about people remembering that brand so that when they do want promotional products, they will come to us. If it's not in our catalogue, we'll find it. If it's not in any catalogue and we can't find it, we'll make it. Simple as that.
I think for me, the logo, just being as subtle as you can with branding is the most important. I wouldn't be as crass as doing that sort of stuff.